What's up guys, Nathan Brother Bob here, or Nathan as you may know me, back again with another episode of Free to Review. Today I'll be looking at Path of Exile, developed by New Zealand-based studio Grinding Gear Games, known by their fans as GGG. Path of Exile officially released for the PC in January 2013, and recently released for the Xbox One in August of 2017. Needless to say, the PC version of the game has been around for a while, but free-to-play games survive or die based on the quality and quantity of the regular content updates they receive, so I think this title merits being looked at. So, without further ado, let's jump into the gameplay. Right off the bat, I'm going to say that the basic ARPG style gameplay adopted by Path of Exile is going to be very hit or miss for most people. The camera is locked on your character and you move and cast spells by mousing over targets and pressing the appropriate hotkey. Some folks will find this control scheme inherently engaging, while others will find it completely unintuitive. You can use a controller with the right third-party programs, but it's not officially supported. For people who have never played this kind of game before, you'll have to just give it a shot and find out if it's for you. But for veterans of games like the Diablo series, you'll be right at home. Speaking of veterans of the Diablo series, I actually feel like I'm an anomaly here, as I had never touched an ARPG before trying Path of Exile. So, as much as I'd like to think of myself as a special snowflake, I imagine there are probably people watching right now who would also like to know exactly what an ARPG is before installing the game. Essentially, you kill a lot of bad guys. Those bad guys drop loot. That loot is sometimes better than the loot you are currently using. You then use that better loot to kill more bad guys. Sprinkle in complex progression mechanics and heavy RNG, and you've got Path of Exile. The main appeal of this gameplay is that it favors insane replayability and deep theory crafting. One look at the game's infamously complex skill tree might seem daunting to some, but others will see it as an endless web of opportunities for creative builds. I applaud Grinding Gear Games for creating a set of gameplay systems that aims to cater to exactly the kind of people that play their game, which is an achievement modern game developers seem to struggle with all too often these days. Because of this, I'm happy to award Path of Exile's gameplay with a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I feel a little bad for rating the performance of this game. Not because my system of grading performance could be considered eyeballing at best, but because none of my characters are built around FPS destroying skills. I've seen videos of popular PoE YouTubers playing builds that quite literally cause their computers to stutter every time they cast a single ability, but luckily that's never been my experience. On my gaming PC with a 4790K and a 1070, I never experienced any drops or hitches, map generation always worked as intended, and I never ran into a bug that prevented me from progressing. It's also worth noting this game has a solid set of graphics options, including a feature that dynamically adjusts your resolution to meet your target frame rate. This is a little off topic, but Path of Exile also supports something called loot filters, which is a very nice setting that allows you to personalize what kind of loot drops show up on the ground, making it easier to ignore trash commons or whatever else you don't need. While my overall experience on my personal PC was fantastic, the shit top did not fare nearly as well. On Intel HD 4000 graphics, even at all lows, this game runs poorly. The FPS would reach 70-ish on empty screens, then dip down into the low 20s when I started killing dudes. Sadly, due to these painful inconsistencies, I cannot recommend low-spec gamers bother with this game. All in all, Path of Exile's performance seems to be reasonably average. It runs as expected in most situations, with the FPS you get scaling inversely with the complexity of the on-screen antics. Since this is basically how all video games work, I can't fault the game for not being some sort of technical miracle, but I can't give it insane props here either. 3.5 out of 5 stars. As many of you probably know, one of Path of Exile's most well-known claim to fame is its pay model. When discussions pop up on the internet about fair free-to-play games, PoE is nearly always mentioned, and for good reason. The game subsists almost entirely on the sale of optional cosmetic microtransactions. Additionally, these cosmetics are actually cool as hell. There's no inane Star Guardian or pool party garbage. The unique armor, weapon skins, and pets are all thematically appropriate to the dark world of Path of Exile. And a game that's all about becoming an unstoppable killing machine, GGG has really done a fantastic job giving you the tools to look like one. Unfortunately, there are two minor downsides to the Path of Exile cash shop. The first may rub you the wrong way, but hear me out. You can purchase additional inventory stash tabs to be used across characters within leagues. However, if you are hellbent on not spending a dime on the game, it's more than possible to play multiple characters at a competitive level without upgrading your inventory, especially if you're willing to get into trading. The second is not one that I personally have a problem with, but I would be remiss not to mention it. One of the primary modes of delivery for their cosmetic microtransactions is loot boxes. Many folks these days have decided to boycott any form of loot boxes on the grounds that it promotes underage gambling, and while I completely understand this sentiment as someone who spent way too much money on Dota 2 back in the day, I can't bring myself to let a predatory business practice used to sell completely cosmetic benefits really bother me. The last aspect of Path of Exile's pay model I want to touch on is the sheer value this game offers to people jumping in for the first time. Without even touching on PvP, building and tweaking multiple characters, or endgame min-maxing, installing PoE for the first time offers you a lengthy story mode complete with voice acting, optional side quests, and heavily developed lore. Like me, you can easily play this game for 50 plus hours casually, with no pressure to spend money or get too deeply into the mechanics. On the surface, Path of Exile legitimately feels like a polished AAA RPG experience that I might pick up on a Steam sale for $30. Except it's free. It also receives massive updates multiple times a year, so you can play through the game in January, then roll a new character in May, and have a completely different experience. While the loot boxes and inventory tabs might be a turnoff to some, I believe the sheer value presented here for new and veteran players alike is astounding, and for that reason, PoE's pay model gets an excellent 4.5 out of 5 stars. Across all three categories I typically consider, Path of Exile passed with flying colors. The gameplay is fantastic for veterans and new players alike. The pay model is more than fair, especially when you consider the shit show that is all of its free-to-play competition, and the performance is pretty much what you would expect. If you're on a shitty computer and you try to run an intense build, it's going to look horrible. If you're on a nice computer and you're playing an average build, it's going to run amazingly. So for all of those reasons, I have to give Path of Exile a composite score, rounded up, of 4.2 out of 5 stars. Thank you for watching this review. If you liked what you saw, don't hesitate to drop me a like and a subscribe, and if you have any opinions, if you disagree with me, if you hate everything I said, or maybe if you like what I said for whatever reason, don't hesitate to leave me a comment letting me know. Thanks, this has been Nathan Brother Bob, or Nathan, and I hope you guys have a great day.